Hello and welcome to the Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Lali-Ho League. We are right in the middle of week 4 of the Swiss rounds of this event, and it might be April 1st, but there's no fooling you when I say that we have a heck of a match tonight. My name is Rex Raoul. I'm joined with Demering. Demi, tell me about these runners and why this is such an exciting race today.
I mean, other than the 3-0 records next to their names, Rex, of course, that's a big deal here because both our runners are racing for an assured spot in the bracket. They've got 3 tries to get there, but, always nice to get out of the way early. On the left side of your screen, you have Dustygriff. I don't know really if I need to introduce him to the Final Fantasy Free Enterprise fans, but if you're not a fan of Free Enterprise, it's your first time watching Dustygriff, 2-time event champion, World Series of Free Enterprise, Zenith Zone 3. If you told me that you said Dustygriff was the best Free Enterprise player of all time, I would probably not argue with you because it's probably correct. Went through 2 very good opponents already in Possum Morpheus and Nightdew, sandwiching a victory against Martin Broadcloak, who is also no slouch. So off to a flying start, unsurprisingly. A little bit more surprising on the right side of your screen is Poorlydrawnbees. She's one of our newest runners to the 2 events here in terms of racing. Already has a signature win under her belt, beating Antedale in week 2, Gambit 017 in week 3, no slouch either. Ground Flyer in week 1, also not an easy opponent. But there comes a time in which you need a signature win. A win that says, look, I'm here to play. I'm going to go long and far into this tournament. And tonight's her night if she can pull it off. I mean, beating Dustygriff is an accomplishment not many people do, even in pickup races. So we'll see how this turns out tonight.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, this is really the old guard versus the up-and-comer. This is the real sort of exciting, real, like something to sink your teeth into match that we've got today. And looks like with our flags, we've got the 2 random objectives. The first 3 objectives are going to be the same every time, but those last 2, we've got a couple of boss hunts, and one of them is pretty spicy there. And I don't mean the officer.
I was really thinking you meant the officer because, we don't have coffins or something. Oh, no, yeah, Wyvern. Big burn, the explosion, the fire, the devastation, which it does mean to cause. That's how this works. A very frightening boss if you're not ready for it. Dusty's taken down a ton of Wyverns in his time. We'll end up seeing if Bees knows how to handle that particular piece of business if it comes up tonight.
Yeah, there's a couple places where it can be really tricky to, and depending on party makeup, can be really tricky to navigate and make sure that you've got everything that you need to do to prepare for that opening mega nuke. We've got Iridia start, it looks like. What do you think about Iridia in this flag set, Timmy?
Arguably the worst character straight up. The only advantage that Iridia really has is she can equip a Stardust Rod, which might pop out of like Watery Pass, as a tier 6 weapon, but you can still find them on rare occasion. Otherwise, please give me a Dancing Dagger, I guess, or just give me a good character. Give me like a Sid or a Kane or somebody that can get me out of the early game. But yeah, Iridia gets used a lot as agility anchor in these flags and not as a playable character, but it looks like we're about to take off. So let's see how this run's going to start out.
Yeah, we're going to see that second character is a Sid. As Sid is one of the characters that I've really been liking in this flag set. And the Darkness Crystal start, plus we know where that D-Mist is too. So a lot of information and a lot of goodies given to us right at the beginning of the scene.
Free character if you want to pop up to the moon real quick, which a lot of the time makes a lot of sense with this composition. That is a viable play here. Might find Fu, might find Edge, because they are always gated by key items on our competitive flags for this tournament. But getting your hands on a big ticket character here could be a big deal. The fact that we have Sineki, which means we don't start with any gear, means that Sid likely has a weapon that is worse than his normal default wooden hammer. But options abound here. Moon is not going to be maybe the first thing people do unless it's to grab the character and come home. But there's a lot of options here, and maybe everybody wants a character.
Yeah, I mean, there's the character there. There's a gated shop that you can check just to see what's available. You can't afford a whole lot, though we can afford some. With these starting kits, we're given the 10 rune rings, and I know that I always sell at least 5 of them right away, and that gives you a little bit of starter money, and if there's something really useful in this moon shop, that could be nice too.
Taken to going as deep as 7, depending upon my starting characters, because if I start with 2 fighters that can't equip rune wings anyway. Like I start with a, like a Kayn and a Sid. I'll ship like 7, just for the money. But yeah, I mean, you could find some of the tier 2 gate or the high tier gated items, sirens, hourglasses, coffins, could all be up there, or at least some of them could be up there. So we'll end up seeing kind of how this plays out, but unsurprising mirror start here. Runners are in a dead heat at this point, and they're both on their way. Well, Dusty's going to stop and check a shop first. I guess he's interested in maybe finding some Earthbound items here, like a Self-Summon for Rydia. That's a good find.
It does up the value of Rydia considerably right off the top of the seed. I think another item that would be nice to find in a shop, especially in the Moon Shop, would be hourglasses. That can make a lot of bosses that could be a little bit tough in some situations a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Dusty is gonna commit to the Self-Summon here, 30 grand. Ends up selling off 8 rune rings here to also grab some exits and have a little bit of cash left over. So interesting. Gonna commit to possibly needing to play with Rydia's ability set here early on. Moon character, we got a Moon Sage, right? This is great.
I mean, it is not really a lunar sage though. Tella really shone bright in Zenma Zone 3, the last big event that we had here for Free Enterprise. But I don't know, it just doesn't seem with the flag that we have for the vanilla giant, Tella's value has gone down a bit. He still has uses as a utility character, especially early in the game with access to that exit spell especially. But his kind of like high tier status that he enjoyed in the last one, I don't think is there anymore.
I mean, he still enables certain grinds, like he still enables moon grinds. There's options there, certainly. Tella's not awful. Mages that get their spells in alternate ways are kind of powerful in this flag set, because leveling up's a little hard because of the slingshot being off. So we'll kind of see how this ends up working out. Dusty is going to give us a check at the shop that Bees decided to skip, so we'll see what's up here on the moon item-wise as well.
It looks like we're going to be trying to get Bees back up. She isn't done with the race yet.
So just Bacchus wines on the moon. Not a bad thing, but
it's one of those items where it's good to know where they are for when you need to buy them near the end of the seed. They're not really something you want to splurge a lot of early. That the Berserk status gets better when you've got better strength stats, better equipment and everything like that. So, but just knowing where they are is going to be useful, especially before you go down to like the lunar subterrane or something like that.
Yeah, if I've got to saw through some high hit point bosses in the subterrane, Bacchus wines on my brawlers is the way to go, certainly. So, does reduce the need for a white mage. It's nice to have a white mage, especially in these flags. White mages are very high value right now, but I mean, ultimately, you can get around that in certain ways. Sid is starting with the best possible weapon he can start with on these flags, by the way, in terms of power, in a silver hammer. So that's pretty fantastic.
With one of the starter kits that we've given, you always have that dwarf axe available for you, and that's one thing that Sid can always equip as well. So he's going to have a decent enough weapon to start with. That dwarf axe might come into play later with its agility manipulation as well. We'll see. At this point, it's still early to know whether or not that's going to be important, but that's a pretty good find there on Mount Hobbs.
Well, the dream is dead. We were hoping for excitement. We were hoping for Wyvern. We were hoping for something silly to happen, and instead, well, we're going to cash out a Starveil, and Wyvern is history. One objective in the books. Here we go, I guess.
We also have a Yang up there at the top of Mount Hobbs. So we've got the two melee characters that really have a very high HP pool. So hit points are going to be pretty nice. Combining that with Bacchus wines, if we get some really good equipment, especially for Sid, then we could be really set up for the end game. Yang doesn't need a lot of equipment.
I mean, if we can find some strength gear for Yang, it'll help him get across the sort of the early game doldrums that he goes into. Like, his damage output is terrible until you've got a couple of bosses, until you've got a bunch of experience under your belt, you got a couple of eggs, got a couple of sirens popped. So you've got a strength ring that's +5, you find a elemental claw for accuracy and a poison claw for 3 strength, and like a power shirt for another, power shirt is unlikely, but even you find like a black belt key for another 5, and things can get out of control pretty quickly. Like, there's the
And
Poison
that,
Claw right there, too. So, not bad at all.
yeah, Westmount Hobbs paying off there. Yang starting with the Almighty Thunderclaw, very nice starting weapon for Yang. And again, the starter kits that we're given also paying off. We do have that strength ring. It can be thrown either on Yang. Right now, it's on Sid. Not a surprise there, but wherever it's needed, you can adjust that.
Yeah, absolutely. Things can get, again, getting Yang over that sort of that early game hump, and also having a Fire Claw in the inventory as well, I saw on Bee's side. So, having 2 elemental claws for hitting a lot of different boss weaknesses is really handy. If you run into like Mylan Z, you can just drop Mylan Z. Odin is no problem anymore, basically, as Yang is going to flex on Odin if Odin shows up. Even Kainazo, when the water's up, is weak to lightning. And if we get Nice Claw, you can do the double weakness for the infinite power that is Yang. Yang's grown on me in these flags, honestly. The more of these flags I play, the more I've been liking Yang. And speaking of Thunderclaws,
this is one of those situations where it pays off to have that starting weapon be not the Fire Claw that it is when you don't have the Sineki flag on. So that's going to pay off for Bees here as she went over to Fabul, whereas Dustygriff made the more traditional opening play of the Antland Nest.
yeah, and with the Silver Hammer, with the Thunderclaw, your Sid is hitting pretty hard. Your Yang is doing 400 damage with power. Tella's doing 400 damage with lightning bolts. Odin very short-lived here, certainly. So, we're going to get a look at our first item. Stardust Pop for Dusty means we're going to see an item on his screen as well in just a moment.
Silver Hammer really makes sure that Sid is going to really shoulder the load, because that starting Rydia is a bit of a liability in the early game, but you're able to really make up for that with the power of the Sid here.
Yeah, the reason that Bees went here, by the way, there's an Ice Claw, so we have the whole raft of elementals here. Adamant, so partially required Fabul, and Antlion gave us a Sand Ruby, so another character, but the reason that Bees went there was for a full heal. After getting blown up by Wyvern, rather than like menuing through for items or anything, she just decides to go to Fabul, get the full heal at the top, and then gets the full heal at the at completion as well, so ends up saving some time that way. It ends up being a bit of an efficiency play.
Those little efficiencies that can really make the difference especially when you're talking about facing up against somebody who's really efficient at like all sorts of menuing and everything in the game that Dusty is known for. Dusty also picking up an Ice Claw here in the Watery Pass and a Stardust Rod. Very good item. We've got a super powerful Rydia coming up here.
Yeah, unsurprisingly mentioned by me in the early going in the preview, because oh goodness, it's so good. Being able to use it as an item on Rydia is a no MP way to do like 600 damage. It's fantastic.
It's also the highest black magic stat boosting rod in the game, so it's good in the early game to deal damage and wipe out, especially like in an AoE sort of situation where you've got a lot of mobs you got to wipe out at once. But it also boosts your black magic and her summons throughout the course of the game, so that's going to be helpful if you end up keeping Rydia up for the long haul.
Also, and as much as I love Sylph, I am a big Sylph defender, lover of the Fae. Ultimately, it does have a much faster animation than casting Sylph, so if you only need to do like 500 or 600 damage as opposed to like 1500, you can save yourself a little bit of time, because Sylph is going to hit real hard now with that Stardust Rod.
The Dustygriff getting the looting out of the way really early. I know that you, Demi, are not a big proponent of looting just in general, but this is paying off pretty good. We saw that Stardust Rod and Ogre Axe there, one of Sid's best weapons.
Yeah, some nice armor falling out here too. Saw a Gaia helmet. So not a ton of armor, but like Sid weapon, Ogre Axe is real good. Life Staff for your white mages. Stardust Rod for your black mages. Like weapons abound here, and that's kind of what you want to see, honestly, is you want to either get your hands on some big ticket items, but armor is nice because you don't have any, but you could take any armor. Weapons, you still want to have big ticket weapons for the big DPS.
Yeah, the best defense is a dead enemy.
Yep, dead enemies can't kill you. It's great. Speaking of characters who can make enemies dead, the Sand Ruby leads to Edge, so I guess we take him. He's all right.
He's all right. He doesn't have the great equipment that he does without the C Neki flag on, but he's still a very versatile character, having access to the Dart command, having access to the Ninja Flame magic, and his equipment draw is pretty good. You get a lot of ninja swords if you're looting a lot.
Yeah, and one thing I did not notice, because I think it was while she was off stream, Bees did locate. It looks like has a Earth Hammer. I was gonna say Gaia Hammer, on Sid here. So also has a pretty high quality Sid weapon floating around.
Yeah, that one's up there. It has the ability to make use of a low-level Quake spell when used as an item. Pretty good use there too. So kind of similar to the Stardust Rod, it's a decent weapon overall, but it also has that extra use of being able to be used as an item, as an attack spell in battle.
Yeah, useful if we run into something like Rubicant or something that otherwise counters regular attacks, but it's kind of limited use. At least it doesn't do quite as much damage. But hey, having that option is always nice. More tools to deal with for problems is always great.
Yeah, I think if you come across, or like the officer-soldier fight where you can get rid of all the soldiers at once sometimes, in low-level spots, that is.
Yeah, Dusty grabs one chest on the mountain and gets a Dragoon helmet, so great for Sid here, who could equip the heavy armor. But yeah, immediately runs it up the mountain edge, starting with a very unfortunate piece of gear, starting with just a fire claw, so not even a real weapon.
Yeah, this is where it pays that he does have access to that Ninja Flame. So even if you don't have any weapons for him, he can still do something in battle. If you've got extra stuff that you can dart, even better.
Yeah, I mean, it's none too exciting, honestly. Like, you're kind of relying on other characters here, which is fine. Dusty, of course, runs straight up the mountain here, wants to get telespells. Which I think is a sensible call. Emily's going to grab a middle sword here in Baron, though, and a dancing dagger, which Edge can also equip to swing. So some real weapons for Edge here.
Yeah, that's going to be definitely better than the double fire claw. So got some good options there. Yeah, using the dancing dagger on Rydia. In her case, she didn't go through that watery path, so doesn't have access to that Stardust Rod. So using a different method to deal damage with Rydia, making use of that dancing dagger, I think that's pretty heads up there.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, here's the fire magic. Gonna take out all five of the enemies here.
Yeah, pretty nice. And there is that Stardust Rod being used over on Dusty's side to help deal with this Pale Dim as the first boss on the top of Mount Ordeals. And there's going to be 3 bosses here, so 3 opportunities to find the officer, which is going to be objective number 5. And I think whenever you've got these boss hunts on, there's already an incentive to go to Mount Ordeals with Tella in your party. The potential of the great Cecil, who I think is a top-tier character in this flag set, getting him online. But the boss hunts just make it that much more important to go to Mount Ordeals.
Yeah, so unsurprising. You're just using the Stardust Rod to finish off Pale Dim, no slow counters, doing some menuing, kind of chilling. Dustygriff just working his magic, being efficient, wanting to get the Tele DPS, filling out his party. B is doing the standard Baron in check here, so gonna try and just clear out this Octomom, which is not a bad boss to see in the second spot, because it hits hard, but Octomom gets real slow as you apply hits to it. After 3 hits and then every 2 thereafter, an arm falls off and Octomom's speed gets worse and worse, so you can get through this fight pretty easily.
Yeah, and it's not a very fast spot to start with, so it's a spot that normally is scary with bosses that have physical damage as their primary source, but Octomom is kind of the exception there because of that speed thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, spot's already slow to start too, so that makes things even better. So yeah, down goes Octomom, in comes Yang, up comes a hook as well. So is this our underground access? Interestingly,
it could be. Dusty might be finding it up here. There could be something. There could be a magma key out there, either on Mount Ordeals or behind some other rabbit hole that this Balnab Z and then eventually other fight up here on Mount Ordeals leads to.
Yeah, it's just been real interesting so far. I guess with Tella in your party, you're gonna want to run it up the mountain but I'm going to grab 1 Ether 2 on Bees' side just to make sure that that item's in hand. Dusty's just making short work of these fights, which is always nice. Just trying to be as efficient as possible here.
Yeah, this Dr. Luge fight is generally pretty easy, but there's still going to be the 3 stages, so it's a bit long fight, or at least 2 stages. There could be 3 if you're unfortunate enough to see Balhamzy, yeah, that's where we're at here. It looks like Emily's going to be right behind him. Dusty didn't open that chest. That's a power shirt.
So you know how we said that there's some gear that makes Yang real good real fast? Giving Yang 2 attack multipliers from a power shirt, again, because Yang is only getting damage from strength basically and levels. That helps close up one part of that curve real fast.
Yeah, if you've got all 3 of the elemental claws, I know there was a poison claw somewhere, and a power shirt, a strength ring. This Yang is actually really strong, but chooses to put it on Edge and just make Edge the real powerful character. He does have a much higher base level here, too, so that's an interesting choice. Emily found some good weapons for him, so I don't think it's necessarily like worse, like we were talking about how good it makes Yang, but putting it on Edge makes Edge really strong, too.
Yeah, the big thing is that Edge is incredibly fast, so
yeah.
you get the extra attacks from that.
And so we see Leviathan in the 3rd boss spot up here on Mount Ordeal, so that officer's still at large. I missed the key. It was the pass. Okay. So yeah, it looks like that hook is our underground access. This looks like a hook seed, because we do know that the mount or the D-Mist is in that first spot in Baron, so we don't need to like go anywhere crazy like the Tower of Zot to hunt for a D-Mist for underground access for a magma key or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that we get a waterfall / mist cave check just to see if we run up into the officer for free here.
Sure.
Dusty does have to go back to Baron as well, has not done that yet. So Bees has 2 more bosses on the mountain to deal with, while Dusty has 2 bosses in Baron to deal with. So, too close to call to start?
Absolutely. I mean, Dusty also hasn't done the Fabul defense, which Bees has done as well. So there's a couple more things for Dusty to do, but Dusty spent a little bit more time looting in the early part of the game to get his party ready. And so some of the fights might go a little bit faster for him than it did for Emily. But, you know, when it comes to that Odin at Fabul, I mean, the Thundercloud did most of the work already. That was not a difficult fight for Bees there.
We'll see how it ends up playing out, certainly. I mean, again, when you're talking about really high level for enterprise play, it really starts to come down to small efficiencies, like,
yeah.
And it's not, and of course, with the way that we end up playing with T Wildish T Pro most of the time, it ends up coming down to small efficiencies, small things, because ultimately where you loot matters. Getting lucky, like popping that power shirt, was a big deal there because it's just such a great find. Things like that are really, really important for making progress.
And you see little things like adjusting which character is in which position for different fights and different locations. Those are the real, like when you're doing it on a battle by battle basis or a location by location, that just shows like this is those little efficiencies that you're doing to make up those times in the long run. And this game is really technical when it comes to the really high levels.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many races in this tournament so far have come down to like under 2-minute finishes at this point. Like, you know, when you've got racers of equal skill, and it's just always tight. But here's the thing that's going to speed this fight up for Dusty. Going to blast Octomom with Lit 3 real quick. Sweet Dreams quad damage. Even tell it's going to take apart the squid real fast. Ending that fight in two blows, basically.
And Dusty picks up that hook right there for that. And the question for Dusty is, like, do you go to Fabul on the off chance that it could be the Magna Key, or do you go underground to try to make one fewer trip to Fabul overall through the course of the seed?
I mean, that's a tricky question, honestly. Like, here's the thing, passing up the Magma Key, we know it's not the Magma Key, of course, but passing up the Magma Key is bad.
Right.
Like if there's a bad boss in the hook route, like your best case scenario is, oh god, I've got to walk back out, right? Verify if this is not a magma key, or grind and try and do the fight. I mean, you could get freebies, it happens, and it doesn't matter as much. But on that off chance, right, you could get randoed pretty hard just giving away a hook route's worth of time to your opponent really bad. And Dusty, I think, agrees with us here on that point, because he is going to defend Fabul right now. And Bees is done with the overworld here, getting her pass, getting done with the mountain, getting Tella his spells. And, well, we got a tougher line in front of us, no magma key, so hook route is go.
I think it's only appropriate for this battle with 3-0 people in this tournament that we get a hook route here.
Yeah, I mean that's sometimes that's what you've got to do. I think the biggest thing with competitive free enterprise also, other than little efficiencies, is talking about sort of all the sorts of seeds you can get. And I know in my own personal practices, I dropped out of the event for personal reasons, but like when I was practicing this flag set, I'm still practicing this flag set because it helps for commentary. Hey, if you want to be a good commentator, play your game. But I digress. The whole thing here is that, like, most of your preparation on these flags is for these big, long, sweeping flags, hook routes, moon dives, because with 4 out of 5 objectives, and 2 of those objectives requiring 2 key items, that's what you end up doing most of the time, right? We're talking about hour 45, hour 50 clears for runners. We're talking about, like, sub 2 feeling pretty good type situations. A lot of 15, 16, 17 as 17s have been cropping up. So ultimately, it's real interesting in that sometimes you get a jet seed when you're not ready for it, and you got to be ready for it.
True, I definitely find, and I don't think it's exclusive to this event, but free enterprise tournaments in general, the jet seeds, the fast ones, are the ones that are really come down to that execution. You've got less room to make an error in those. And we see sirens for sale, as well as coffins up here in the Evelyn shop, which is where Bees is at right now. And so she's ready to make that dive into the underground, while Dusty is checking those boss locations, going to see if he can find that officer.
Yep, 4 sirens, 1 coffin, and an empty inventory. Also grabbed an hourglass from the first chest there, which was really nice. So not bad, not bad.
Yeah, this might not be enough for like a full grind, depending on how long this seed ends up being. If you have to fight most of the bosses on the moon to get through it, you don't need to use a lot of sirens anyways. But this is definitely going to set Bees up for some like a little mini grind once she reaches the underground. Scramble a couple of eggs and get in a good position to fight any bosses that might crop up in the underground boss locations.
Yep, makes sense. And like the grinds have been pretty, like even with sirens for sale on these flags, grinds have been pretty diverse, honestly.
Yeah.
Like we've seen everything from dragon eggs in the underground to we've seen moon bosses, we've seen moon chests, we've seen moon behemoths, we've seen trapdoors in the Luca cave. More of those, please, thanks. So we've seen a wide array of possibilities here, as Bees' looting is paying off in spades here. Gungnir Lance, Ninja Sword, or Murasame, Guy Azure, couple pieces of armor. Character is another Tella. Well, okay, can't all be winners.
And we saw Mylon and friends in the Baron Inn, so this purple robe is going to be Mylon Z. So equip your fire claws if you want.
I guess Yang's got the hot hand this seed, huh?
He does. We see Dusty taking a look at the weapon shops, finds a samurai bow, some shurikens, nothing that he's really interested in. These items, I think, are where it's at. The sirens, coffins, and Thor rages are all useful items in free enterprise.
Yeah, Mylon Z not going to be a super difficult fight here. Telefire 3 will hit real hard. Telefire 3 is a great spell for this. We've got Fireclaw, we've got Edge, who hits pretty hard. You've got the Earth Hammer for Bees, which is actually a fire elemental weapon, which will also do quad damage. But she's bailing out of the underground here for something. Not sure what. We'll see.
It could be some shopping that, like maybe some, I don't know, something like star bales or life potions that she wants to get before making the dive into the underground.
Yeah, Starvales were located. Ended up buying a bunch in Fabul, if I remember correctly here. Dusty finds the Staleman chest here. Does not seem to be having a good time. I think
Yeah, the Staleman.
Go ahead.
That the fact that they can possibly inflict the sleep effect when they hit makes them considerably more difficult than other trap chests could be. They also hit pretty hard. They don't give a ton of experience, but you could get a very high tier item from trap chests in this. So I can understand not wanting to reset. Plus, Dusty already did his shopping. Doesn't want to go through that again either.
Yep, so Bees ends up shipping her inventory for a Sylph Summon here. Ends up finding the Sylph Summon in Mysidia, just ships her inventory. Edge is a little low on gear, or team's a little low on items in the inventory now, so like more looting once getting underground might be in the books here. Dusty, of course, knowing where the Staleman chest is means that he can freely loot whatever he wants at this point in time with no risk whatsoever.
Is the advantage of finding the trap chest. We say that both here in Edlin as well as once we get underground in the Feymarch. That is another one of those locations where there's one trap chest. You find it, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side of the coin, like we did have one hourglass. Maybe he's saving it for Mad Ogres in the deeper underground here in Upper Babel to take out the Mad Ogres for some experience on this party, just to sort of fill out the gaps a little bit more. And he is going to get full free looting means that he is going to get this Gungnir Lance if he wants it for money or for Kane. He's going to get this Murasame. He's going to get this Soma drop, this Vampire, the whole 9 yard. Whatever he wants, he can have it at this point.
And now he also gets a Tella if he wants it. Probably there's a bit of diminishing returns on a second Tella versus second other characters in this game, but yeah. Yeah, it looks like Bees wants to make sure that she gets all of her shopping done before jumping into the underground. And, you know, after you've done the looting and you've got the money, it kind of makes sense. You see Cure 3s and Cure 2s. That's not what she's looking for, it looks like.
Yeah, so doing a lot of shopping here, you know, it ends up being important sometimes. You can give up a little bit of time this way. Dustygriff popped back out and is popping back in here, it looks like.
Yeah, maybe I think after looting, has some more money to shop, so yeah.
Yeah, immediately goes down to the bottom there, looks at that Gungnir Lance, looks at that Lunar Staff, gonna ship these Asura Summons. Hanging on to the Gungnir right now, it looks like, but everything else must go. Full fire sale.
Oh, this is the play here. This is why Bees wasn't going to the underground yet. Going to the moon. This might be for a grind.
I love this. Yeah, this is experience points. You've got a couple of hourglasses, or at least you've got one hourglass from a box.
Yeah.
You can even save yourself a siren and go do like the hairdryer chest and maybe see if you can roll up a real weapon on top of it. That tends to be a play that I love doing, is getting that one Lunar Pass chest, hitting it with the hourglass, and then turning that into a pile of money and a pile of experience points. So this is sensible, though. Like, this takes a lot of the risk factor out of the hook route. Like, you see, if there's a bad boss down, if there's a bad first boss, like, it's probably doable, but, you know, better to be a little safe and, you know, jam a bunch of experience onto your party first.
Yeah, there's a couple floors where you get a couple really choice siren uses for the experience. You can either be a couple of gold dragons or a trio of warlocks, both very lucrative in the experience that they give.
Yeah, and if you do, this is going to be the warlock. This is going to be tri-warlocks, which you can mute or stop muting them. The big thing, if you mute them, the only thing you have to be aware of is the fact that when there's only one left, it switches away from casting spells to melee attacks. So you have to be a little aware of that fact. But just trying to be careful here, trying to make sure that the Hourglass goes off, making sure Edge doesn't get absolutely torched here. But yeah, gonna cash out her 1 Hourglass for what ends up being an absolute pile of experience points. I think this is like in the 87,000 realm.
Yeah, that is no joke at this point of the game. This is end game experience, and it's not only end game experience, it's one of the best sources for end game experience, these Warlocks are.
Yeah, got a bunch of items too here. It looks like life potions were located, so is on good terms there. Is going to toad them as well to greatly burn down their defense, but it does not hit very often, so gotta be a little aware of that. Teleweak can also be used on these to take them down to near no health, which is another way to kill them really quickly.
Yeah, if you also find a Mute Dagger, a Rune Axe, or in Mute Arrows, Elven Bow, they are all 4 times effective against Warlocks as well. But Dusty getting through this Upper Babil, and now we're going to see who the first boss is. We know who the second one is, but this first one could be a wild card, and we have Ashura.
So only 6,000 health, and Asura doesn't do anything until you do something. So the whole idea here is that you just need to get up a wall on Asura and then just try and basically dish out 6,000 damage as fast as you can. Not a strictly difficult thing, but her melee counters are gonna hurt.
Absolutely, but this is one of those situations where sometimes it's a bit more useful to have that Rydia and the summons available. Both Sylph and Titan that Dusty has for Rydia get past the wall that you push on Ashura, so that's going to help out quite a bit.
Yeah, Titan coming from the Mount Hops check, which is really nice here. So I guess this is going to go in a pretty straightforward manner here. Back row glitch Edge with that full moon doing a lot of damage already. I'm going to Zerk up Edge and try and just get him to just cut Asura down to size. Only needs a couple of more hits with this big Titan summon. You know, very well empowered with black magic gear here, so shouldn't be a long fight.
And Bees has finished her little mini grind of those Warlocks on the moon, is returning to the blue planet. I imagine a turn underground is going to be happening quite shortly here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dusty, I think there's one more swing away, it looks like, here at this point, or one more Rydia summon. But yeah, Dusty's confidence in a situation like this to just say, look, I see a boss I could do in the second spot. I could probably do the first spot too. That level of confidence is hard to come by, and Asura gets dusted by the Sylphs. Summon's fighting it out, but, you know, Asura is the queen, but the Sylphs are much better and end up winning this fight.
Yeah, this...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's also not a priority to get those characters back up, especially that young. We said that he gets most of his benefit from leveling up, but that first spot where Ashura is a spot that will never give you experience unless it's the alt gauntlet.
Yep, and so ultimately, not a big deal. Plus, you get the full heal here. Edge with the full moon, using the full moon because Mylan Z flies, because it makes him immune to Quake because he's Earth Elemental. Good job, game, I guess. It ends up working out correctly, but that also means that the full moon makes Edge do quad damage here. So even better than Fireclaw is the full moon here, and so it's going to take Edge. It looks like a solid 12 swings here to do the job, but you know that's darn fast. And just to speed things up, is taking the Stardust Rod off of Rydia is going to... I thought I was going to hand it down to Tella to cast a big Fire 3 here, but just took it off. Not sure, but, you know, hey, it's fine.
I'm sure Dusty has a reason. That's usually what my thought is when I see Dusty do something that I don't know why off the top of my head.
Yeah, I guess he wanted to blink Edge first for safety, and now Tella's history here, but the blink on Edge will keep him alive for 2 swings, so this should be perfectly fine.
Yeah, with this setup here, it's really all about Edge and getting as many hits in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and keeping Edge alive, because Edge dying is really bad here. But yeah, there's the Stardust handoff. There's the Fire 3. Okay, so yeah, exactly as planned here. If Edge, for some reason, if something goes wrong here, well, you've got the Fire 3 to finish the job.
Or you've got Edge to finish the job. But that's enough. That'll do it. Dusty has defeated Mylon Z with just Edge late standing at the end of it, but that is going to give him access to the underground. And, you know, Bees is not far behind as Bees is getting into that Ashura fight right now.
I think the advantage Bees has here, as you can see, she's got a pile of levels.
Yeah.
Which means that, you know, still probably needs to get a wall up here. Probably can't fully brute force this fight, but is going to do some good damage here. Edge doing 1200 already on a non-weakness swing, just a standard swing, and Yang can take a couple of hits here, which is pretty great.
We see a little peek of the boss that looked like a red robe. That would be the Dark Imps are the boss at the top of the tower.
Good news, free boss. Bad news, requires walk up tower.
And you can't exit out of the tower. There's a lot of dungeons that you can exit out of, a lot of dungeons that you can't exit out of, and the tower is one that a lot of times I bet you wish you could exit out of, but you can't.
Yeah, if there's a plot flag at the end of the given dungeon, you cannot exit out of it. So that covers a lot of things. That covers Upper Babel, that covers Lower Babel, that covers like Barren Castle, Sealed Cave. It's, you know, it's a nuisance, but you learn to deal with it.
Yeah, and you also learn which ones you can and which ones you can't relatively quickly when you're learning to race free enterprise. So now we've got some underground routing that we're going to see. It takes the free heal at the pot at Dwarf Castle, heading over to Dwarf Castle next, putting Edge in the middle. That makes me think that he's going to at least attempt these bosses right now.
Yeah, using this bosses here are fairly slow, so using Edge as a fast anchor here to gain some advantage over said bosses by making sure that Edge can take a pile of turns and do a pile of damage before anything goes tremendously wrong. I mean, 23,000 damage was not a problem for Dusty though, so like 8 grand should be cake.
And we see Baigen in the first spot here. I think with the setup that Dusty's doing, it shouldn't be too bad, but Baigen can punch pretty hard in this first boss spot here at Dwarf Castle.
Yeah, and you can see now also that Bees' Edge is not hitting for 2,000 in this spot right now. He's hitting for 3,000. Just gonna brute force this fight because, like, why do this fight honestly when you can just overwhelm it with this party of heavy hitters? You know, you've got non-berserk Edge hitting for 2,000, 2,500 plus. Even Sid's hitting for over 1,000 here. Right, Fire 3 is going to do some decent damage. So, should be pretty straightforward. Yeah, 3,600, it's all right.
And that's the advantage of that trip to the moon and that extra experience from that little one-shot Warlock grind really puts her in a good spot for handling this boss here.
And handling it at a level of not even really needing to think too hard about what's going on, right? This is just let's mash them buttons, do that damage.
Yeah, it really is contrast of Dusty's style, which was okay, Edge, we've got to get everything set up on him perfectly, and then he was the only one who survived at the end. It was just enough to get through it, whereas Bees has got a lot more room to breathe here in this fight.
Yeah, finesse is a sucker's game, right? Just go in.
Power overwhelming is a valid strategy.
But, you know, Dusty is doing a great job of leveraging Tella Berserk here as he is through the first boss. He does down that Baigen in a pretty straightforward manner here. Bees is gonna be underground. Ends up having about a 3.5, or actually it's a little closer, to a 4-minute deficit getting underground here. But does have the levels from the moon, does have a little bit of loot under her belt, but her inventory is kind of empty here. Character, Cecil?
Ooh, I always take Cecil in this flag set. I think he is very powerful. Dusty also taking the Cecil right now. But we do have a vanilla Galvez here, so that's a little bit annoying to deal with.
Yeah, Dusty trying to cast a piggy before the paralysis goes off. It's not going to happen, however. Just really just not fast enough here to get off a spell with any delay, even if this spot is fairly slow. Not to say that this is bad, though. Golbez is incredibly not scary here.
Right.
Just has no magic power to speak of. So, you know, your two characters that get through it, probably going to be okay.
Right. It's not going to be a difficult fight. It's just annoying to deal with it. And if you want to get, like, this is a pretty decent spot for experience too. And so if you want to get the characters that you want to level up in there, that just takes even more time. But if you don't worry about that, you know where the sirens are. You don't really have to care about getting experience right now. Just whatever two characters are left can beat down Golbez good enough, and then you should be good to go.
Yeah, with 42 minutes into the seed at this point in time, and we've seen dueling summons, dashes to the moon, characters aplenty so far, which is sort of a nice rare treat for this flag set, and a hook route that was expertly dispatched by both of our runners. And now that we have, you know, we have a lot of the game in front of us still. We have access to pretty much anywhere that doesn't require an additional key item on top of underground access or moon access. So what do you think's going to happen at this point? Where are we going from here?
What I like to prioritize are places where you can go in for multiple key item checks. We don't have a lot of that available to us right now. The only one that's available is the Fey March, where there's the free chest and the two bosses. With Sirens, you can get yourself ready for that. But we've got a lot of key items that we've got to find in order to complete the first three objectives. I mean, we have to complete 4 out of 5. We've got half of the Forge, we've got half of the Pinktail one, and we don't have any sign of the Twin Harp yet. So we've got a lot of key items that we got to find. So that's the priority that I would put out before like going for boss hunts or anything like that.
Yeah, that's fair, and it's interesting seeing Poorlydrawnbees on the same route that Dusty is, direct to Dwarf Castle. You know, I guess the double boss check is hard to pass up. You want to get your characters earlier on these flags too.
That's
Again,
true.
we talked about the no slingshot, and of course, since we have no slingshot, you absolutely want to get your hands on power characters early, so that you can make sure that they get their levels. So basically, we want to have our party filled out before if we have to make a moon dive or not. So this makes a lot of sense. Taking Cecil, of course. Cecil, if you find a single holy sword for your holy man, you can do, you know, holy heck amounts of damage here.
You got a key item and closed that window so fast I did not have time to read it. Were you able to see that?
It was a silver apple.
Okay.
So yeah.
And now heading over to the Fey March, there is one free key item check here, and then the two bosses that could potentially yield key items as well. Looks like we're going to do some looting here first. Mentioned this a little bit earlier. There's one trap chest, this one right here. It's got 5 warriors. Not anything that Dusty wants to try to tackle right now, but since he's saved right outside of it, he can go right in and knows exactly where that is and can loot freely. And definitely wants to get that crystal armor. Probably not, maybe for the equip every now and then. It's pretty decent on Cecil, but it's also worth a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, on these flags, even with the S quarter flag thing selling for 25% of their base value, crystal armor still sells for 5 digits. It's, you know, good times.
Now, Bees sees the Cecil there and decides to ditch Rydia.
There's a cat claw down here for Yang, and so Dusty's gonna show you how to contend with the inventory boss. Though I know there was a video that Inven did on this too, but it's when you get that screen, you dump 8 items. It doesn't matter what they are. It doesn't matter whether you think you want them or not. Throw them out. Get it out of your inventory. You didn't need it in the first place. It's not sparking joy. Just throw it away.
Another good piece of gear, found a black belt gear without the starting equipment that we see for Edge. Getting that is going to be pretty nice. We've got the power robe that Bees found that Dusty didn't, but that's going to be good on any of the melee characters.
Also, our free item's a pan, so you want checks? We got checks. You want to do bosses down here in the Fey March? No.
Yeah, probably not. Unless it's the officer fight.
And then yes, and then 100% let's do this, especially because Star Veils for sale down here, or excuse me, hourglasses were for sale. So since those are bosses that technically don't have the boss bit, you can lock them down for free. Boss that we can do for free, I think Dusty still has a Soma drop for Tella. You can Soma drop Tella here, put the Stardust Rod on him, have Cecil cover, and you theoretically don't even need to pop an Hourglass to stop the dolls. You could just hit them with Swag Rocks and call it a day. But it looks like Dusty's just going to cast Exit and call it an afternoon.
I think he was thinking about it, and then it's like, I'm just not going to risk it right now. Don't know if he sold that crystal armor. If he still has that, that could really help out for those cover strats. This crystal armor is very good for defense.
Yeah, three free checks, Alice, as our trackers, or excuse me, our restreamer is mentioning. Three free checks. Hard to pass. I'm a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. You get one here for hitting Yang on the noggin with the pan, and the Sylphs will reward you with a potential key item. And then you go up to Yang's wife and Fabul, who will give you 2 more key items, one for finding Yang and one for returning the pan.
Yeah, with a Yang-shaped dent in it, no less. But there is our holy sword for our holy man. We get our Excalibur. The Sylphs, of course, provide. You spend 30 grand and they're gonna provide. That's how superstition works, right?
Yeah, I think that is in the bylaws.
So yeah, if you buy it, just remember, if you buy a Sylph summon, you'll get Excaliburs. It's pretty rad. Not actually gonna happen, but hey, we'll take it this one time.
And now beelining it back up to Fabul. Well, I probably shouldn't use that phrase with bees in the race as well.
Yeah, but Dusty lining it doesn't have the same ring to it.
No. And we'll see if this brings us any closer to our objectives, because that's one thing that we're missing. That Excalibur is very nice, but you'd really like to get away closer to the end of this seed.
Package doesn't really do it. The Baron Key, though, that's what you want to see. There's the money item. Likely chase from Dustygriff here. Like, let's just go and get that out of the way. We know Miss Dragon is there. We are gonna get a triple check. We're gonna get a triple check.
Yeah, very nice pickup here. That's gonna be so dense in both. There's 3 bosses. We know one of them, but 2 of them that could potentially be the officer. 3 potential key items that could lead us towards objectives. Very nice pickup here, and not surprisingly, he's heading over, well, to Mist, it looks like. Gonna check the package. Looks like there might be a character that he wants. Also gonna do face check and see if the officer is in this Mist cave here.
It is not. It is just Dark Elf, so no free officer here. You've got bees over here deciding it's time to maybe scramble up some eggs and oh wow. This is a decision point. You want Fusoya, you gotta sit through the package cutscene. This is gonna take a hot minute. But on the other hand, it is Fusoya. You can take Tella and beat him into the sun at this point.
Yeah, when you find better Tella, you've got to actually think about doing it. And Dusty's not resetting. It looks like Dusty is going to go through this cutscene to get the Lunarian onto his team. I think Bees' little grind here might be setting up for possibly wanting to take on the bosses at the bottom of the Fey March.
Edge exacts that exacts that egg for 1800 damage on the noggin. But that's gonna put on a bunch of levels. Thing is, this is how you get your Cecil, your levels as well. Like, the big thing is that she might not have the Excalibur to do those bosses, but we know the other boss is either Rubicant or Elements. If it's Rubicant, that's generally a pretty brutal fight in the Asuras fight. If it's Elements, it's pretty straightforward.
But there is a possibility that when Bee sees the pan in that free item check, that might be more important than dealing with the bosses. Whether or not she's able to do them, there's a bunch of checks that she can make that'll be done a lot faster via that pan than fighting those 2 bosses. So I can see it going either way for real.
So Dusty's going to give us a look at what could be one of the most interesting checks in the game, because if this is the vanilla Kaipo officer fight, it could be party time for Dusty at this point in time, and he might be able to put this race away pretty early on if Bees decides to not pursue the package because she's already ground her party a bunch.
It is not, it is Val.
Well, Dusty gets a really important piece of information, which is Val is not hiding on the moon someplace where she's an awful fight to fight, and you hate everything when you see her, so that's pretty fantastic, honestly.
Yeah, that knowledge is pretty good. Plus gets Fusia added to the team. Just really great asset. Can do good black magic damage. Has a lot more MP in the pool than Tella. Has that same flexibility and utility. Just better Tella as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, probably has a better spell sweep, but gonna keep Tella as well, and is gonna discard Rydia here. Gonna get rid of these exits because he's got his inventory is pretty darn full here, but also he's got multiple mages and Cecil who can all cast exit, but ends up getting rid of Rydia here instead, so is gonna go with the possible Tella anchor late, keeping Fu around because Fu can cast Berserk, so this is also double Berserk caster, so gonna keep the utility.
Yeah, I can understand that, especially when you know that Edge is doing quite a bit of damage. Once you level up Yang more, he's going to do a lot of physical damage. You got Cecil with that X-Scal. Having two casters of Berserk is really nice. And also, Tella is a much better suited character to be an anchor than Fusia ever will be.
The only thing about Fu is if you have a Cursed Ring, then Fu is just a fine anchor because he also just goes to 5 for the Zeromus fight, which gets your Zerkers full speed, but not strictly necessary. And yeah, so Dusty is going to get this Cecil geared up to go. That's pretty frightening. This party comp is beautiful. Triple Zerker, double Sage is probably the comp of the tournament at this point in time. If you want to go fast, you find your Excalibur, you find your Edge, you find your Hanzo Steel, and you go to absolute town on the Seed.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Zerker strats at the final fight. That's another thing that's really different. We saw a lot of reflex strategies back in Zima Zone 3, and so the metagame is shifting a bit to Berserker strategies this time around, and having advantage of more than one character who can cast that Berserk is very important.
Yeah, and since, we know where Bacchus Wines are, so maybe it's not the end of the world at this point in time, but, Fu also just fills that Black Mage role far too well. But, the big thing here is that, this is a sort of situation where you can kind of see Dustygriff is slowly pulling away. It's little things, and it's the kind of thing where Dusty was 4 minutes ahead getting underground, but hasn't done a grind, and that is likely to not matter at this point in time because we're already at 7 key items to begin with here. And Dusty will stay on Earth as long as it takes at this point. Dusty loves staying on the Earth, and if he can get to 10 key items on the Earth, then that'll help him negate all of that grind time that was already done.
Yeah, that's the thing. The early grind that Bees made was a bit of a gamble in a sense that if there was a really tough boss that would have either been maybe in Dwarf Castle or that first boss spot in the tower, then this grind could have really given Bees an edge. Again, shouldn't use that word when there's edge in the party, but an advantage in taking care of those fights. The fact that Dusty was able to take care of those fights without too much of an issue means that the gamble didn't necessarily pay off at that point for Bees. Not that it can't later, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
The existence of Fusoya in these flags, though, does turn gambles, does nullify a lot of gambles as well.
That's true. That's so true.
You can do some very silly things with Fu on these flags. Grinding becomes a thing that you just happen to do while you're around. And that is sort of the situation here, is that Fu fell out, took the extra 3 minutes to go get a Fusoya in his party, and now Dusty is off to the races here.
But B is now taking on these Fame Arch bosses. If these lead to more progression than the turn that Dusty is making, this could put her back in the driver's seat as well.
Well, if you wanted a pure white mage, here's Porum. I think it's a little late for her at this point in time. Dusty agrees. Having Fu already and Tella, don't even worry about it at that point.
So yeah, now we're going to get, this is a little bit of a long cutscene here, but we're going to check to see what's in the trash can and Baron. And I imagine Dusty's going to go right back in and check out see if that Odin boss is doable. Right now, with with Fusia, a lot of bosses are doable.
Yeah, that spot's only in the 16,000 health range too. It's actually lower health, even though its output is really good. It's lower health than the Feymarch bosses as well. It ends up making for a really good play a lot of the time, honestly. However, I think there's a better check at this point. There might be a better option. We probably look at the Odin spot anyway here, but I guess it's time to party.
Yeah, that Earth Crystal is a big pickup. It's not necessarily a progression for our objectives, but if you're looking for more equipment, you've got access to that treasury now. You've got another key item check, another couple characters. I don't think Dusty's really wanting for characters at this point, though.
He's also probably not wanting for that treasury, honestly. He's got a Holy Sword. He's got a
at this point,
yeah. Full Moon on Edge as well. Yang's got a Cat Claw, Poison Claw, Elemental Claws of choice. Strength Ring, Black Belt Key. I mean, you've got enough gear you could spread out between these three characters to be pretty happy with your melee output.
We get a Rat Tail there, and we do have the hook, so that is checkable. And this boss is definitely doable for Dusty.
We've got Cecil in the party, so this fight is 100% FREE free. You just got to get through 2 turns here after the second kick. If Cecil's alive, Cecil can just take one swing, bonk Yang on the head, and then Yang will come to his senses and stop fighting you. So, stop fighting. Also, Cecil with an absolute pile of armor, so even board AI can't get him here.
AI tried its best, but not there. So this is going to be really interesting here. See what we get from this. That's the Twin Harp. That is pretty important.
Yeah, now we're down to needing one key item in office, one key item of 2, or the 2 main key items. We still need a Legend Sword. We'd still need a Pink Tail. We still have to find the officer necessarily, but that is, of course, the big pickup. I guess we got something even more important than the Earth Crystal to do here.
And Emily finds the element fight in this spot here, not the Rubicon fight. The element fight is probably more doable, but it's still she doesn't have she has Tella for the black magic, which is good, but not great.
Yeah, having Fu would be pretty great, honestly, here. So Dusty is going to give us the check on the Mist Dragon as well. Does not forget, because he is a top runner.
Yeah, that's one of those things. When you get the hype of finding that Twin Heart, the possibility of skipping this becomes bigger. Just a rib in this case, very good piece of equipment, especially against magical attacks, which is, if you're not familiar, Zeramis only does magical attacks.
And it also gives you a pile of physical defense, too. It's ridiculous.
And then Dusty trolling me by taking the red airship up to Toria, which is like my mantra: don't take the red airship to Toria, to Zot, really.
Look, you can do whatever you want when you're Dustygriff, apparently, because he's making all the right choices and making them very quickly here. Kind of showing off why, if you want a signature win, you've got to beat Dustygriff, but man, if anything, Dusty ain't gonna make it easy on you, and he is showing that tonight.
There still is a possibility here as Bees is fighting off against this Elements fight. Ooh, looks like there might have been a Star Veil that wore off there as Tella knocks out Cecil with the Fire 3 there. That is unfortunate.
Yeah, and then Edge throws up a Veil, but Edge being in the front row gets dumpstered as well. This fight has kind of fallen apart a little bit here without good anchoring. You could maybe try to salvage it by throwing a direct Fire 2 or a direct Fire 3 in this spot with Tella in hopes that it does enough damage, but instead is going to heal up Cecil all the way with the Ether Burst and then throw the Star Veil and try and do this the honest way here.
That's a bit of a risk too. You get the one elixir from the starter kit, and you just got to hope that you've got the one. I think Bees bought one Ether 2, but you got to be very careful when it comes to Tella's magic pool.
Yep, we've got an AoE Stonecast for Dustygriff to kill off his party here.
Yeah, and then we've got to get a little bit quiet here for a moment because we're about to hear some music here. First, we're going to get a key item, but then we're going to listen to DJ Spoonie B's Rockin' Tunes. Just a white shirt, so unfortunately no progression, but some sweet music either way.
Everyone with a slightly different take on that one. It's Cookery Forest inside of houses, the shop theme. It's Ocarina of Time. I have the urge to get a cheap metal sword here and a wooden shield and save the Deku Tree. What a weird feeling.
But Dusty might have a feeling to go to the Tower of Babel because he was received the Tower Key for defeating the boss there, and so that is another 2 potential key item checks right there in the tower. So that's something that's open to him. We'll see if he wants to make this check up to the Tower of Zod as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He looks like he is dipping into Troya Castle here. Let's see if he hangs a quick right here for the treasury. If he bails out and makes Invenerable very happy, there's the skip. Goodbye, treasury. We don't need those boxes. We're geared to the teeth. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, Dusty did quite a bit of looting early. We saw that entire Watery Pass looted early to make sure that he had the money, and a lot of good gear found there has really set him up well. And so the fact that he skips this treasury is not too much of a shock based on everything that he's done earlier this season.
Yeah, we don't know what the rat tail holds for us yet here. Bees is giving us a look at the Baron shop. It is a gated armor shop. Finds Dragoon helmets, not super exciting. Weapon shop, finds some arrows, not super exciting. But yeah, so right now we've got Bees on the Baron Key Trail, so in the right place at the right time, certainly. But, with having done both of those Fey March bosses, if that rat tail doesn't pay off, that's just time that you have lost to Dustygriff here. But, oh my, never mind. This is the play. There's our boss objective. It's all over but the crying at this point, I think.
It's going to be tough unless that rat tail is the key to both the Legend Sword and the pink tail somehow. I'm trying to think about it in my mind. I don't know if there is an answer to that right now.
There is not. There's no way that it can route to 2 key items because we've already located the pan. The big thing is that, if it is either Adamant or pink tail, Legend Sword or pink tail, there's a chance that Dusty has to make a deep moon clear potentially to make this happen. Right, just clears the moon in the wrong order to get his 4th and final objective out of the way. On the flip, Dusty loves to stay on Earth, and, even now with all of this overwhelming power, might just do the Fey March bosses if it comes to it before going to the moon.
That could be it, especially since so much of the blue planet has been cleared at this point. They're kind of higher level bosses in general, but I think especially with Fu on the team, that level sort of situation isn't that big a deal. If you want 1 food, now you can have 2.
Oh, this is my favorite movie, Fu 2, The Doubling. This is great. Tella kick to the curb.
Tella stuck around for quite a while on this team, but yeah, no more. We've got two Fusias now. Don't need Tella.
That's like 4 Tellas. Like that's just too good.
It really is.
And Bahamut's about to get a taste of his own medicine here. This is gonna sting.
Yeah, I'd call 2 Fusia nukes a mega nuke, but just 1 is enough.
But yeah, I mean, this is set up to just Zerk it up and go ham in the final fight. You can do whatever you want here. Bees is going to locate this free boss as well down in Baron. Again, picking up all of Dusty's checks here as we go along. Cecil's going to be A-okay fine here, so this fight is going to go about as fast as it can. Dusty's going to give us a look at the Earth Crystal item. Again, if this is Legend Sword or if this is Pink Tail, this seed is over. We will have go mode.
I will say this is pretty nice routing here by Bees as she is doing this in between the demist fight and the fight at the vanilla Kainazo spot. So
yeah, there's a little risk, but it is a slightly faster way to do it if you're feeling good about your levels in your party. But Pinktail does pop up for Dustygriff. That's that for that. Dusty's in go mode, about to go grab a hovercraft, gonna go get whatever the Pinktail gives him. Hoping, I guess, for an Avenger or a Masamune, but it's probably pretty irrelevant at this point. You just got to go secure some Sirens and go secure your grind at this point. 68,000 experience and egg will make this real quick.
Wow, did that Tower of Zod pay off?
Yeah, just routed it super efficiently, real clean. You know, harp to Earth Crystal like you do. Second Fu, didn't even need to get the first one, but hey, it's cool. We're gonna get Sid's ultimate weapon and an Artemis bow. I don't even know if we've got arrows, but we've got go mode. We've got grind mode.
And we have Sirens available to us. Don't need to go to the moon to grind. We could just do eggs. We're now at the point where Dusty is at the 10 key item threshold. So eggs are a very trivial grind. They're very fast. They cost a little bit more because, like, the amount of experience you get per siren is lower on eggs, but it's very fast to get through them as well.
Yeah, this is the kind of situation where it looks like we're gonna use the Artemis bow and arrows here for speed on our Cecil anchor here to try and get through this as fast as possible. Probably take Cecil to level 45 and call it a day. Don't really need to go much further than that. You get Cecil to 40. You get Cecil to 45, and he is anchoring at 28 agility, and also has an Excalibur. So yeah, this is Dusty doing Dusty things, just straight efficiency. It's not to say that Bees was inefficient at this point. Like, she's doing all the same checks in the same order with the inclusion of the Feymarch checks. We know the Feymarch checks aren't going to really pay off here, but everything else has been pretty good.
This has been excellent play from both of our runners. Dusty, like, there were a couple things that fell Dusty's way, but also this is like excellence of execution here that we're seeing from his play as well.
Yeah, this is confidence of play without taking a single grind fight, right? This is just confidence that he can play, right? Like that's what this is all about, is that, you know, Dusty has game, right? Like, he didn't worry about the hook route. He didn't worry about picking up levels beforehand. He didn't worry about anything. He just pushed through the seed in a quick and efficient manner with the tools he was given, you know, picked up a Fu for good measure, for safety, and then is just, again, showing why he is the champ, showing why he is the defending champ of Zenith Zone 3.
Yeah, and really that time spent to get that first Fusia via the package was the only thing really that really felt like, I guess maybe the extended looting at the beginning were the only things where it felt like he was spending time in something other than just going from check to check to check. Whereas Bees did take a little bit of extra time to get some grinds early, and they paid off. They made it so that she had no problem getting through that hook route, getting through the bosses in the Feymarch, that sort of thing. So, like, it wasn't bad. It just, that combination of that being where you took a little bit of extra time, and some of the checks, especially that Zod check, just paying off for Dusty in spades.
Yeah, and Dusty just taking advantage of it here, which is what the good runners do. They take advantage of these little efficiencies, these abilities to just do things without worrying about it. Like knowing he's got the grind option on the table, but deciding to say, you know what, I know I've got the grind option on the table, but I'll do it later if I need it, and ends up getting underground with a 4-minute advantage. And, you know, again, 10 key items just nullifying any sort of grinding that was done earlier in the seed by bees. Even gets a siren refund there in case he wants one more. God, everything is falling out perfectly.
Zapping, I want to take a moment to shout out the Restream team. We do have Elisale on the Restream itself. We have Twisted Flax on the tracking tonight. And big shout outs to both of them, because if we don't have them here, we do not have a show. Also, thank you to RPG Limit Break, another partner of ours for this event. Really happy that we're able to showcase this race over on RPG Limit Break. So thank you to them, and to everybody who's really like the administrators of this race and this event in general, because it's been going on great. And of course, thank you to everybody watching, because it is so fun to have an audience for this great event. Now we are seeing the final equipment getting ready for the fight against Zeramus. Don't even have to go to the moon. We've got the shortcut with the pass. So now it is time that we have to ask the ultimate question of free enterprise. Whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
There's a lot of possible butts.
There are so many butts. It is butt time as well. Bees is now on, I think, on the right track. She has completed that Cave Magnus check, and now we'll be heading over to the Tower of Zot. Well, could go to the Tower of Zot. For her sake, I hope she does.
Looks like she's grabbing the airship. Looked like she's going to go to the tower for the 2 checks there instead. So, not a big surprise here. Also going to get the Miss Dragon check in now, it looks like, but not a big surprise there. But yeah, gonna use that Artemis bow for additional agility here on Cecil, but is gonna flip over to the Excalibur. I don't even think, did he have any Bacchus wines available? I don't think he did. He's got 1 in the inventory, but probably is just gonna save it for the 3rd character here. Use two Zerks on Fu and just kind of go for it.
Yeah, that seems to make the most sense here. Be efficient with your 1 use of the Bacchus.
Or just uses it with Edge, which also makes sense. You want to get your first ability queued up before the transformation finishes, and you want it to be usually a Starveil or a Bacchus wine here, so it makes sense. It's Plankton. He's tiny.
Yeah, well, might be a very small sprite, but hits just as hard as Zeramus in the vanilla game.
I mean, you know, big evil, small package. Yeah, that's how that works, right?
It often does. Oh, the magma key was what you get for the rat tail. Oh, that Feymarch did not bear fruit for bees there.
Nope. On Dustygriff's side, does have the Zerking up on the main characters here on Edge and on Edge and on Cecil here. Is going to need to heal up this Edge who took the counter nuke for the throw of the Silk Web to get the slowdown. But yeah, big heal on Edge here. So big heal on Edge. Cecil go burr. Starveil up. We're gonna see some nukes fly as well here. Just gonna see some of that sweet overwhelming damage.
We've got the Zerker strategy tried and true here. Looks like going to do a little bit of supplemental damage, a little bit of a a hybrid strat, as we see a nuke being queued up right now.
Yeah, first Big Bang going to do less damage because of the spell that was cast, the Silk Web. The first one is free. The rest of them require some precise timing to get that halved damage. But in this instance, Planktonmus is just gonna go and take a lot of damage here. B is doing the double check. Not a shock here. Right, not gonna go up Zot.
Yeah, there's plenty of logic to making this check right now. Unfortunately, we know that it's going to have to end up being at Zot at some point, since two of the objectives are being completed through there. We know that the Tower of Zot is hard required for this.
Yeah, it's a good play though, right? 2 bosses, 2 items is still a really solid play here. The funny thing is that if Legend Sword pops up here, you can go into Zot, do the first boss, and go, oh, and then turn around and leave.
That is true. Oh, we see a blue robe here. This is the Water Hag.
Yeah, Dusty's fight is very straightforward here, right? Got all the levels in his characters. He's got 2 healers. The nukes are just for safety, basically. Like, they're to push, because what happens at 45,000 damage is that the next direct ability causes Zeromus' health to reset. It's how they were able to basically make it look like Zeromus has over 100,000 hit points in vanilla. But ultimately what ends up happening here is that when the health refill happens, it's a counter script that also resets Zeromus' turns. So Zeromus goes after the refill. The refill is a turn, and then takes a blank turn before shaking again, buying a lot of time.
Yeah, if you're ever in a Z fight and you just notice, like, nothing's happening for a while, that's what's happening right now.
But yeah, still reflecting nukes here. Just wants to push as hard as possible here. I mean, Cecil with an Excalibur doing over 4,000 damage a swing is pretty darn nice, though.
Yeah, I think we're getting pretty close to the end. This damage output is very nice over at Dusty's side.
Yeah, some victory
and
fireworks
rocks are
here.
falling.
Last 12,000 hit points, but we will get a bunch of Berserker turns before we see another one of those, so that's all she wrote at this point in time, basically. No way that this party can fall. Planktonmus is shaken. He is bacon. Well, he's not bacon. He's just dead at this point.
Yes, and so that's going to be it. Dusty wins this race in an official time of 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 50 seconds. Big GG's to Dustygriff, and I believe we are joined by Dusty himself. Congratulations on your win, and congratulations on starting out 4-0 here.
Hey, GG's, thank you.
So, Tower of Zod, good play, huh?
Yeah, not bad. Felt pretty good that time around. A couple things there, hey.
Yeah, just staying direct on the earth, doing the checks that were closest to you, and it all fell together at the end there, which, unsurprising, I guess. You are a great runner, and great runners tend to have great luck on top of it, which is always pretty wild.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way tonight. It like the cards kept falling into line, but this is a scene that was pretty interesting in that I wanted to play more aggressive at times, but it was like old habits die hard in this scene in terms of like, I'll do these extra loot checks for this, or ooh, Fu is here, that's kind of certainty. I'll take Fu, or but it did play out pretty nicely in my favor for how my road had worked.
I mean, and even Fu, I think Fu was the biggest time that was spent not doing a check or looting, honestly, but also just it made sense in the long run. What if you've got to do a deep moon dive? Fu is just a great character to have on a deep moon dive, and it ends up you got 2 and didn't need to do the deep moon dive.
Yeah, that's always nice, and in a lot of scenes I'm always craving certainty, which is it's like that's who could guess that with me, obviously, but I just want to know that my path forward will be as easy as possible. And that check for Fu lined up at a really nice time where I needed a heal for the party anyways. I didn't want to deal with 10 to 15 seconds of menuing for tents or cabins or lifing up whatever. I was like, I can go check this. If it's foo, I'll go with it, and it will save me at least, you know, a minute probably or plus. So I figured it would work out in the long run, which it did. So
Yeah,
Another place that it looked like you were thinking about doing something for a moment was when you saw those Fame Arch bosses, and I believe you saw those dolls, and you're thinking, I might be able to do this. Should I do this?
yeah, exactly. I was like, I wonder if people are going to know exactly what I'm doing here, because I was checking the health values to see what should I do here. Like, should I commit to this full on? Which, you know, you can there, and it's not even that bad, especially with hourglasses in play. But my party was decimated at that point. Would have to heal, would have to set up for it. I don't love taking fights like that when I'm not set up right out of the gate for it, especially if I think the fight's going to be kind of not great. You know, it would have been probably fine overall, but those front dolls hit you with the wrong combination of hits. It's not very fun to deal with. So
The other thing that I thought was interesting was you put specifically extra time and money into getting Rydia. Everything at the beginning of the game, you spent a lot of money on that Sylph summon. You went to the front of Hobbs and got that Titan summon, went through that animation, and that really served you well a lot through the early game. And then when it came time to gain Cecil, I think it was it with Cecil that you ditched her, or at some point you kept Tella, but you got rid of Rydia. And I thought that was interesting, and I just wanted you to walk me through that decision.
yeah, I at the time it was the long-term benefit of having her as a character, which I think I got rid of her for Fu, maybe, because I think I got rid of Sid for
Might have been
Cecil,
there, yeah.
and I got rid of her for Fu. So I was like, because I think Rydia is like maybe not so sleeper anymore, but sort of sleeper character on this flag set in terms of how good she is, especially early. Because of the T-Wildish, she ends up with decent summons and ended up finding that Sylph in shops a lot of the time. It's pretty interesting to see what you can do with Rydia early in these seeds. But then there's the combo of that of I don't want to get a million experience to have her use nuke, and once she has enough levels, she's not useful as an anchor anymore, really. So unless I actually like double looked at that Dragon Whip in the Eblon Cave a couple of times, so I was like, ooh, that would be nice for a grind, because it's just hold A and do your grind at that point. But other things kind of worked out just as well. And it was more or less a Zeramis fight decision for me to say Rydia is not going to really do too much for me on the moon, and she's not going to do too much for me for Zeramis. So long term, this is probably the best path.
Yeah, I mean, I trashed Rydia in the opening. I said that she was the worst character possible on this flag set, but gone ahead and proved me wrong here, I guess. But yeah, looking over very briefly at Bees, it looks like Bees is on the moon. The moon land. The land of summoned moon monsters.
Yeah, that's rough. The moon was pretty enticing a couple times this seed, just because, especially as I got 10 key items, it was like, and the officers fight was still in play. It was like, do I just ditch this at any moment and just go hunting for that fight? Because there was a lot of free fights still left open in King Queen. I think for me, Waterhag was still left open,
Yeah.
and a few other fights, but.
You know, if you had ditched it, I would have lost it on stream. Like I would not have had any idea how to commentate the race at that point in time. I don't think I've ever I don't know if I've ever seen you on the moon. It's weird. I don't know. I got nothing.
It's just like when you're on the Earth clear stuff, the decisions are usually so easy. And I mean, the moon decisions can be sort of easy once you get up there, but it's hard. For me anyways, it's hard to go to the moon and then ditch out of it at a point, which sometimes you have to do that. So I kind of like the easy decisions, which a lot of times is just cleared stuff out on the Earth.
And this complete 4 out of 5 objectives rather than having to do all 5 with so many of them requiring multiple key items in order to get through means that you're really, I think the play of not going to the moon sometimes ends up working in your favor more often than not, right?
I feel that way. At least putting it off until the point where it makes sense. For me,
Right.
anyways, there's a lot of people that can make that play better than I can, but I just find if I'm not set up at a point where I find fights on the moon I just can't do, I need some way to get around that, because you just don't want to go to the moon and then find 3 or 4 fights that you're really struggling with and sink 10 minutes into it and gain nothing. That is like the nightmare for me anyways. But
Did you have any other like thoughts on this seed as you were playing it that you wanted to share with us?
not too much. I've regretted that Staleman fight pretty bad, but
Yeah, that sleep touch can be really nasty sometimes.
yeah, it did. It just like really did not work in my favor. But no, this was a fun one, and obviously I'll watch it back after. But I'm sure Emily played very well. This just kind of the way these seeds work out sometimes. But definitely GG's to Emily on this one.
All right, and once again, GG's to you, and congrats, and good luck in the final round of the Swiss, and wherever this tournament takes you after that.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate it. GG's.
Yeah, so I guess Chad, it's time to cheer on Bees here as she takes on the moon, unfortunately.
Yeah, we did get to see a nice little peek at the lunar frogs, one of the most fun strats that we've ever seen in Free Enterprise, turning some evil skeleton dinosaurs into frogs.
Yep. The reflected breath ending up bypassing their defenses, which is, of course, ends up being pretty darn fantastic. So, yeah. And then, of course, at that point in time, they're completely nullified, and you can defeat them pretty much any way you feel. Excalibur's a good way to do it at that point, because the Holy Sword still does quad damage to them. But yeah, so B is up here playing Among the Stars, finding the Mega Sisters at the White Spear altar. Again, we've got a ton of levels already. I don't think there's anything that's truly concerning at this point with 4 heavy meleeers and Tella for this. The interesting thing, of course, is that at this point, she's found neither Fusoya that were hiding in this seed at this point.
Right. Yeah, with one of them behind the package, the other one up in the Tower of Zot. Neither one in her party, so she's rocking one old man, but no mops.
And she doesn't really need to grind anymore. She's got all the levels belted that she's gonna need, and then some at this point, most likely.
Agree. She's in good shape. Once she finds go mode, she should be ready to go exactly there, but she won't get to that go mode until she goes to the Tower of Zot. I imagine she's probably going to full clear the moon, however. Especially if, maybe if she finds the Legend Sword, does she go back? I think, personally, and other racers might see things in different ways. When you're at this point where there aren't those, the only real rabbit hole key item that's still up in the air right now is that Luca key. So at this point, you're really looking just for either the specific boss or the pink-tailed, the Legend Sword. At that point, I'm probably going to commit to completing the moon if I make the trip up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see a world in which I don't full clear this moon if I went up, because there's still a boss out there somewhere, and there's still a key item. There is only one key item that could lead us to a boss at this time, but it is the Luca key. So with a bunch of key items out, there's no reason to leave once you start this up.
And it looks like she did a very good job of taking care of these Mega Sisters here, too. Nothing scary in this fight. Other than the power level of Bees here.
Yeah, a bunch of very powerful brawlers just working through things. There's Spoon, not a key item that you really want, but it's a key item that you get up here, I guess, at this point.
If you come up on a particularly nasty boss, you can dart it at him. You can save it for the Zermus fight and have one turn where Edge just does a ton of damage. But this is the kind of fight where you might want to dart that Spoon.
Yeah, a lot of hit points in this spot. 42,000 health in this spot, and not weak hitting, certainly, and you've got to kind of race it down. I think we have a ribbon on one of our characters, if I remember correctly, so it might be a situation where we can't fail this fight, but, that's still kind of a dicey situation.
There goes that Spoon for the quad 9's damage. That puts a big chunk of the HP that you need to do to this fight out of the way. Also going to be reviving up Tella here. Probably a smart move just to have a little bit of his utility in this fight as well.
Yeah, Evil Wall doing some pretty severe damage here, just swinging away.
And I think probably not the best for healing, because I think right now you're going to be switching into the Cecil cover strategy. So want to keep your... you might want to berserk some of like Yang or Sid or something, and then leave Cecil there to just swing an attack orb. Oh, and Blink, that's another way to just make this cover strategy even better.
Yeah, Cecil taking 0 damage is much better than Cecil taking more than 0 damage from the next 2 swings that he has to block.
I tend to agree with you there. And now everybody else in the low hit points, this is exactly what you want to be for cover strategies. So in pretty good shape here. Re-up that Blink. The only thing that could be a problem now is Crush, and if one of the characters has that ribbon equipped, then we'll be fine once that phase of the fight comes as well.
Yeah, Ribbon, interestingly enough, in Final Fantasy IV, instead of making you impervious to like all status effects or something, just makes you impervious to dying instantly, so instant death effects cannot affect that character.
And this is the fight that we see it in, I think, probably the most often. Well, this one in Golbez, really, right? But Evil Wall down, get a cool 200,000 experience at this point. Not that Bees is really struggling for experience, but we get some more Hanzo Steel and a Crystal Ring. Decent equipment, but definitely not what she's looking for right now.
I mean, making good time through this moon, though, showing off how to clear the moon fairly efficiently, even in the face of a couple of tougher fights, like Mega Sisters at the White Spear Altar, not great. That seeing Evil Wall anywhere up here is usually pretty sad, because every place seems to melee for, a ton and then some.
And if you want a tough melee spot, that's next spot that Bees is going to, the Vanilla Ogopogo spot, is a doozy. This has got, like, basically any kind of attacks are going to be strong out of this spot.
Yeah, doing some gearing and some rearranging here. Just checking some stats, making sure everything is up to date before going into this particular fight.
The CPU. Well, I said just about any attack will be nasty at this point. The Naser is the same damage, whether it's here or in the Mist Cave.
Yeah, 10% of your maximum health every time it goes off. Like, the big thing, of course, is that the CPU, the main orb has 31,000 health, well, 30,830 to be precise in this particular spot. The small orbs get that 3,000 value, dividing up the health of the spot. The big thing is that you take out the healer, so it stops healing for 3,000 a tick, and then you just hold A, but you have to switch from the attacker to the orb in the back. Tella will just keep the party topped off. You can also cast slow on the attacker to just greatly reduce its attack frequency, making your life a lot easier as well.
Yeah, the fact that it's not like you can definitely use Berserk on this fight, but in that case, you're probably always going to take care of that or get that attacker knocked down too. CPU, if both of the small orbs are down, will use Globe 199 on a couple of your characters, almost always dealing quad 9's damage. So you just have to recover from that. But that's the trade off if you want to go with a Berserk. But it's also almost always going to be safe to just attack it and, as you say, top off the Tela.
Yeah, this is very safe. Like, with a party at this level, you could theoretically... she did not buy Bacchus wines. Bacchus wines are in the shop above at the Hummingways, because I don't think she ever checked it. But if you've got your hands on Bacchus wine, you can Zerk through this fight. The big thing is that you get free turns because the queue is jammed up with Zerker turns. So basically what ends up happening at that point in time is you get like 10,000 or so unblocked damage on the CPU. And then the hope is just Tela dies because, you know, we didn't need him anyway, I guess.
Tela getting more levels is kind of more of a liability now than it is an asset. You don't really need him to gain any more stats, and agility can be bad depending on what position you want to use him in as well.
Yeah, one ether here for one last heal from Tela. This should take us through the rest of this fight, though, at this point in time. There goes the CPU. So orb down. We're one hit away, and so we're going to get through this Masamune altar without any problems.
Yeah, this is a spot that a lot of fights, like we saw that Mega Sister fight a couple of battles ago. That one could be very difficult at this spot, but CPU easily managed. Very well done. Get another white robe for doing that, and you see the reset. Beast does not need the experience. Had to use an ether in the fight. Would rather keep the ether than the experience at this point, and you know that makes sense too.
Yeah, it has more experience than is strictly necessary, it looks like.
And one more fight left in the Lunar Subterranean, the Vanilla Crystal Sword altar. And then on the moon, there's still Cave Bahamut looming.
Value Cave?
Value Cave. Maybe that's where the Legend Sword is.
I mean, you know, there's sometimes value in Cave Bahamut.
And we've got Rubicant here. I don't think this is necessarily a very difficult spot for Rubicant. This spot is more known for its physical damage output, and the magic is actually quite weak here. So the majority of Rubicant's attacks are magic-based. You see, even the Mighty Glare only doing 560 points to Sid, that's not a very scary Rubicant.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is one of the odd spots because the counterattack from, like, the whole idea is that the big mega nuke hits real hard, but you know then the nukes afterwards hit fairly hard as well. But that's all based on the spell power of the nuke itself rather than the spell power of the spot to make this safe and doable in vanilla.
Right. Oftentimes in vanilla, it's getting enough hit points to tank the opening to Mega Nuke, to get rid of, especially in casual play, to get the Crystal Sword. With the Fire 2 counters being so weak here, it's just easy to just swing away. And Rubicant lost now.
But he shall return.
Yep, and the next seed.
Unless he's in the one spot where you don't show up, then he might get the seed off. You never know.
Yeah, a boss needs to take a break every now and then.
I mean, you mean like Fu in the last event?
Yeah, well, Fu had an extended vacation. And there is the Luca key, the one rabbit hole item that was still available at this point. So there's a couple places left on the blue planet for bees to go to, and there is that cave Bahamut. We'll see where she heads next. Yep, it is Bahamut. Yeah.
Sometimes when I clear the moon, it just absolutely feels like it never ends.
I mean, really, the situation with basically all of these moon bosses were the situation that Dusty ended up finding him in. If you find the officer and either the pink tail or the legend sword right behind it, that's one spot. And I think maybe Bees was thinking that's probably what Dusty did. She just didn't guess that it was going to be at Zot. We have the Antlion. This is a pretty scary spot for the Antlion. Antlion hits very hard in this spot.
Yeah, the counters don't do a lot because again, Bahamut, another mega nuke boss that you're designed to reflect the mega nuke for safety and then not die to it anyway. So the physical attacks though means that the physical attacks of the spot are through the roof in terms of damage for some reason.
Yeah, that's in general in Final Fantasy IV. The spots where the vanilla boss does no physical attacks generally have very high strength.
Yeah,
who else has really high strength is Edge here, doing like 4,000 damage a pop here.
Yeah, one of those. That's just finding out that these particular spots had really high damage values was always just what is one of the most interesting parts of the randomizer was, it just happens to be that these spots melee really hard and nobody ever knew it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, why would you even know what the melee damage would be at Bahamut? All Bahamut does is count from 5 to 0 and then use Mega Nuke.
And there was never any way to berserk Bahamut because the boss bit gives you protection from being berserked, so you never knew that it was a thing.
And Antlion dispatched relatively easily. I mean, poor old Sela couldn't quite make it through, but that's okay.
Tella, no.
There's the reset out of that glass set. Now it has to be back to the blue planet. There's Zot and the Luca Cave, and I believe that's all that she has left.
Yep, we know it's Zot. The Luca Cave apparently has got to have the Legend Sword then at this point in time. So, but that's it. That's the rest of the checks. This is I mean, if Bees does Zot does Seal the Cave first, this is a hundo basically. Short of getting the last item out of Zot because you'll just cast and exit and leave, or I don't know if you can cast exit and Zot, you walk out then at that point.
Looks like she's heading over to Toria, so that means that it's going to be Zot, which is going to be good for her. She's going to get the bad news that she was right outside of this just before she went to the moon, did all the moon and came back, and that's where it was.
Yeah, that's kind of how it ends up working out in the end. One wrong guess leads you to going up on the moon, and the moon gives you a big pile of nothing sandwiches. Nature of the thing, though, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we tend to say from time to time, rando's gonna rando.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have a lot of different rules for when they want to go to the moon, when they don't want to go to the moon. You've got as items start getting checked off on the Earth, I always feel like I want to stay on Earth longer and longer, but it's not always the case. But yeah, as we do love to say in this randomizer community, moon completely haunted, just not necessary.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. It's like if you've got like a route that you're comfortable doing, like if like Dusty, like liking to stay on the blue planet until you have to, basically, or until you get the 10 key items, you've got kind of a rule set, and you just know that there's going to be outliers where that is not going to benefit you. Like you're going to get burned from time to time, and you just have to be aware of that and be willing to accept that when you sign up for racing randomizers.
Yeah, I mean, there are the things you can control. You can control your execution. You can control how much you menu. You can control the boxes you open. Right, you can choose to try to route efficiently. There's a lot of things that you can control, but where the items are, completely out of your hands. That's kind of what this came down to ultimately. Dusty was working a bit of a lead. Like, Dusty was pulling away slightly here and there. Like, it's not to say that Dusty wasn't going to win this race. It's just, it's going to look real bad in the score sheet. It's not really as bad as the score sheet looks. Bees was, only down 4 minutes, and maybe that stretched out to like 6 or 7. And honestly, at her juncture in her playtime in this particular randomizer, right, at her skill level, being able to say, yo, I was neck and neck with Dusty on the overworld, only lost a couple of minutes to grind before doing the hook route for safety, and then caught up a little bit of time there. And then, if doing Zot first was the thing, would have lost the race by like 6 minutes. That is actually really impressive ultimately.
And it looks like for anchoring purposes, Bees decided to ditch Sid for a low-level Edward. So now has a really nice anchor situation ready for herself for that Cerebus fight, which is going to be incoming very closely. And also upgrades that Tella into a Fusia. Didn't get the package one, but we've got one now, and that's going to help out quite a bit for the Cerebus fight.
Yeah, and we know that once she's done doing a little bit of equipping and setting up here, we all know, and I'm sure at this point she's figured out that this is assured of being a key item at this point in time, which is either the Legend Sword or the Pink Tail.
Right.
So she knows this is go mode as well. But yeah, at this point in time, I just, everyone should just make sure, give Poorlydrawnbees your energy. You want to see her finish this siege strong. She's got the group to do it. She's ready to rock. It's just a little ways to go at this point.
Make sure to knock out Edward so that he doesn't gain any levels. So he'll be an ideal anchor for the final fight. Heads up play of doing that instead of just nuking with Fusia there. It probably wouldn't have been as many agility ticks up that it matters a ton, but better safe than sorry.
Yeah, Edward gets like a pile of agility real early on too. It feels like his agility grows pretty well, so you've got to make sure that he's dead there just to make sure he doesn't get any levels. But there's our Pink Tail. Yeah. There's go mode.
Yep. Well, you have to go to the tail guy.
Hey, tail guy, I got a tail for you.
Because that's the mistake that I know I've made. Where I go to Cerebus and it's like, wait, where's my crystal? Where's my crystal?
Yeah, I mean that has certainly happened to all of us, I am sure.
Get that Sid ultimate weapon. Also, Edward's ultimate weapon. Probably best not to equip it for this fight. It does give a boost to the agility.
A massive one at that, plus 15. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to keep that in our back pocket at this point in time. One last save. In we go. I'm going to turn in this pass that we got a little while ago and hopefully make short work of Zeromus here.
I think Bees might even have more levels than Dusty, so this is going to be pretty good. Only one Fusia, though. It doesn't have quite the like array of firepower for the full hybrid strategy that we saw out of Dusty, but still set up very well for this fight.
So yeah, steps up to the altar, and here we go.
What's nice about an anchor like this, with the levels on all the other characters, the turn order is very predictable, very easy to predict who's going to go when right at the beginning. So you can kind of outline your first few turns in the Zeromus fight before everything gets hairy.
Yeah, it's why the party's ordered the way it is. So Edward throws the crystal, Cecil does Cecil things here, which is either throw a Star Veil or throw a Bacchus Wine, or even parry is viable here, and then gonna just get the party started here, get some Berserks up to get the fight going.
Those levels paying off, Yang now able to do quite a bit of damage, especially with Zerks like this. We see that Silk Web being thrown. There's a dual purpose there. Not only is it going to effectively cast slow twice on him to make him quite a bit slower, it's also going to make this first Big Bang that we're seeing right now do considerably less damage than the rest of them because of that. So everything went well there. Now you can recover and then basically let your melee fighters do the dirty work here.
Yeah, just get them rolling and don't stop, because that's kind of how this ends up working out. You've got Crystal, you've got Excalibur, Cecil, you've got double sword edge. Like, this party is legitimately doing an absolute pile of damage, and so one last Berserk here. Just gonna keep throwing them up, and then this fight will end in short order.
Yeah, without a doubt, this is a very strong Tri-Zerker team. And with those, you see that HP pool on Yang. That is a very high level Yang.
Yeah, and once you have at least two of these characters berserked up, then what ends up happening is that your Zerking characters will end up taking 2 turns per Zeromus turn. So the number of swings, the swing economy when you are running Berserk party members is just through the rooftops.
And the key on this is if Fusia doesn't die on any of the big bangs, then you're good. Even if he does die, you could probably still recover despite all your other characters being berserked. Or it doesn't look like Cecil's berserked at this point, but there's timing, like effects like Black Hole, and we mentioned during Dusty's fight the HP refill, which gives you extra turns in order to recover in between big bangs as well.
Yeah, and that's just Fu casting Cure 4 just to top everybody back off. It's, again, this feels pretty darn academic at this point in time. But yeah, everyone's asking about that agility anchor, and so now everyone is just getting multiple turns, which is pretty optimal here.
Yeah, in the vanilla game, all characters, both your allies and the enemies, like relative agility is based around whatever Cecil's is. In pre-Enterprise, kind of the default is whatever character is in the middle position is the one that everybody else's relative agility is calculated on. So you've got a really slow character in the middle. All your other characters have very high agility, so they're going to be much faster in relative. Now, it does mean that the enemy is faster in a lot of situations too, but we're getting close to the end here, so I'm not going to go into tedium. Just to say, it's good to have a very low agility for the Zyrnus fight.
But yeah, rocks are falling, and it looks like Cecil's going to avoid that one. You know, Yang has got enough health to take a couple of them without too much of a concern, and that is that for that. So get your GGs out in chat for Poorlydrawnbees, finishing the seed in 1 hour, 55 minutes, and 53 seconds. Very solid time for having to basically 100% the seed at this point.
Demarine, I want a refund.
It's your own damn fault for going to the moon. You don't get any refunds, sadly, in this tournament.
I suppose. Yeah, like, you know, let's be honest. We all knew my odds going into this race and everything. And like, had I taken the same path, Dusty probably would have beaten me by about 8 minutes or so. But holy ducks, what a night to get randoed.
Yeah, I mean, you had underground access, like, basically your first overworld wave right up until the hook was exactly the same amount of time, and then you ended up going up to the moon to grind a fight where Dusty is just super confident and just saw the bosses down there and trashed both of them pretty easily. Picked up about 3.5 minutes there on you, and then he just sort of working his way out in front of you, and then just kept just a little bit faster at everything.
Yeah, the Warlock grind was my biggest regret of the seed. Like, I thought I could probably blow through 2 of them and get, like, really far ahead in that aspect, but no, that was not a good play at all. The rest of it was okay. I mean, Dusty obviously outplayed me a lot, which is to be expected. I guess he is the reigning champion or something, but holy ducks. I need to go back and watch the reactions to when I, like, faded Zod to go to the moon. I was just like, what are the odds, right?
That's a bit unfortunate, having that hard required Zot that you flew right away from. So that was a bit unfortunate, but you know, you didn't know that at the time, so like, we can't really hold it against you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. It's no. And like, I agree. It's hilarious. You know. It's all I can do is laugh, right?
Yeah, I mean, you had your shot. Like, that's the thing, is that it's not that it was a bad race. It's just, you know, again, there's that little step of confidence, that little step of, you know, Dusty's seen things that you haven't and isn't so worried about them, that kind of comes into play there.
Yeah, I should have just ran down. I should have, because like Milan Z isn't too bad in that spot, especially where I already had Fire 3 on Tela, and the full moon on Edge. But yeah, I don't know. That was one big mistake I made, but it happens.
It doesn't help that Dusty checked the package either.
Oh, what was that? The package?
First Fusoya.
Fusoya.
Oh no.
Which of course meant that he could basically microwave the Earth at his convenience in one turn every single boss he saw.
Yep, that would have been the play if I had done that too. Yep. But you know, he's where he's at for a reason. But I'll get there in a year or two, I'm sure.
Well, and it's one of those things that we mentioned during the race, that it's like, if you just look at the times, that's one thing, but you know, you very easily could have gone to Zot instead of the moon, and so like we think like this is a much closer race than the ending times look like it is.
Oh yeah, it's I just like, I understand that. It's just still funny to me is all.
Well, it's good that you're laughing about it, because I'd rather that than any other sort of emotion coming out.
Oh, life is too short to get mad at these things.
Well, did you have any other thoughts on this race? Anything else you wanted to say to us while we've got you here right now?
As always, thank you everyone who's involved, our commentators, our restream team, Dusty for helping me pick a half-decent time that kind of worked for both of us, and for everyone watching. I hope everyone has a lovely night, and let's spread some love to wherever we're rating.
All right, well, GG's and good luck next week.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, that was our second place finisher tonight, Poorlydrawnbees. One of the, I would say, upcoming stars in this free enterprise community, starting off 3-0 in this. is really strong. Six an unfortunate loss to Dustygriff, but anyone who else was 3-1, I don't think will be wanting to face Bees next week.
Nah, not at all. It's just, and with 2 more shots to make the brackets, anything can happen. But getting to 3-0 means that the 4th win isn't far away. So 2 more shots, 2 more chances. So hopefully we'll get to see Bees in the round of 32 and the bracket stages in this tournament.
And with that, one more time, I'd like to shout out our restream team today: LSL on the restream itself, Twisted Flex on the tracking, everybody over at RPG Limit Break. We are going to send you now over to Randomania, where we've got another LaliHo League race going on, and we're going to see Apex Corvid versus Leggy Starstream. So everybody. Stay tuned for that. Make sure you don't give any spoilers on this race. A lot of people will want to come back and watch this one later, so don't give any information about this. Well, I'm Rex Raoul, and thank you to Demarine for joining me on this fun race tonight.
Well, of course, always a pleasure, Rex. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for the past couple hours, and of course, everybody can't do it without the fans. So thank you all for coming out, and we'll see you next time.